Yeah, good. Can we have a mic stand, Lisa? A mic stand.
It's on the others.
Okay.
Is there a mic? Yeah, there is.
So we'll need the appropriate slides. I don't know if there's someone behind the computer there. Chitic? That's my computer. Thank you, Chitic. That's actually why I was... Anyways. Yeah. And you can start the presentation? Yeah. Great. Okay, so we're here basically to talk about this petition topic that has been signed by many residents, which is to stop all development work on the Crown until further notice from the Residents' Assembly. So next. So in our understanding of this wording, this actually implies two steps, yeah? There is to stop all development work on the Crown, and there is until further notice from the RA. So this actually implies two movements somehow, which is that we're actually making a pause. We're not wanting to stop all development, we want to make a pause to have the time to reflect on the how we do it. And that's actually really the request in this petition. Yeah, so we feel that without this pause, we all remain in the defensive space, like we can all see right now in the room. We all remain in that very tensed feeling. And that might lead to further escalation. It's not conducive to peace and progressive harmony, which is what we're here for, right? So we need to take a breath. And we need to realize, and we need to move forward together. And for this, we need time to meet and to discuss, and that's why we want to have a pause. Basically, that's it. Next. Yeah, step 2 would be to discuss, to have a collective process, to discuss on how we're actually going to make this, and how we're going to make this happen, yeah? To start the work again. So we thought it would be nice just to, for those who might not have an understanding of what's actually the current structure of the Auroville Foundation, to go very, very quickly, very briefly into it, for those who might not be familiar with it.
Hi everyone. So we'll have a really quick look at the legal structure of Auroville. Auroville Foundation... Auroville is structured by the Auroville Foundation Act passed by the Parliament in 1988. And under the Auroville Foundation, there are 3 different authorities. Firstly, the governing body, the governing board, which is appointed by the central government, and its role is to work in collaboration with the Residents' Assembly for the development of Auroville. Second is the Residents' Assembly, which is us, all of us, all the residents of Auroville over the age of 18, registered in the Register of Residents. And our role, as per the Act, is also to work for the development of Auroville in consultation with the governing board. Third is the International Advisory Council. It consists of 5 members chosen by the central government, and its function is to advise the governing board and the RA, Resident Assembly, about the activities related to the management and development of the township, and also to make sure that the development is done by the spirit of Auroville, keeping up with the charter of Auroville. And then we have the Secretary of the Governing Board and the Auroville Foundation Office, and there is the Working Committee. It's a working group consisting of 7 members chosen by the Residents' Assembly to represent the Resident Assembly to other bodies.
Thanks. Next. So just that we are on the same understanding, because the question of the master plan will come in the room very soon, I guess. So in the master plan, there are these are 2 chosen excerpts. insisting on the fact that the master plan provides a policy framework, and that it is a policy framework, and that basically it has the implementation phase have to be strengthened through a participatory environmental management process. So that's in the master plan that is gazetted and that we agreed. Next. So if you look at it in a very simple way, simplifying it a little bit, so we have the master plan, which is a policy framework, which is not static or rigid. Then we are supposed to have detailed development plans, which are 5 years plans integrating planning policies, development programs and projects. Then we have annual and layout plans with annual project plans with budgets. And finally, we're supposed to move to implementation. So right now, the reason why there is a bit of a tensed feeling is because it is felt that the two intermediate steps, which is DDPs, detailed development plans, and annual layout plans, have not been respected because we don't have any at the moment. So basically, we're just going from the master plan to the implementation of the master plan without having the intermediate steps. So that's actually one of the big concerns right now. And I'll give the mic to Glenn to have a bit of an overview of what happened the last year in regards to the Crown topic.
Okay, I'm Glenn. A bit of a deja vu because I seem to be here 8 months ago. Is the mic on? Yeah. What I will do is to do the time. I joined this only yesterday. Sorry. Okay, I know. It's very difficult to be here. I have to bear with me. I have a bit of an overview of, I came forward to give an overview yesterday of how the latest two developments brought us to the point. I won't go into what happened in the last 10 days. Lakshmi will do that afterwards. But just so that you understand the process that was followed, that happened, and what brought us to this position that we're in. Next. Next. Sorry. So, the development of the Crown area through the Bliss. First I'll talk about the Bliss and YC area, because that's what happened in the last immediate future. Mike, sorry. Okay, next. So, I won't detail all of this, we haven't got time, we've got to go quite fast. But basically, the initial happening started in February 2020. And that was to try and push for the development of the laying of the HD cable. Now that was a whole series of events, and that brought us to a general meeting in March 2021. The key issues of that were, there was an environmental assessment done within Auroville at the request of the TDC. All the stakeholders recommended that we explore that alternate route. That included FAMC, Working Committee, TDC. There was a big meeting at the youth centre. That was for the Bliss and the YC combined. A week later, or I think it was about 3 weeks later, the TDC issues a work order to say we've got to just start clearing the area and laying the cables. So then that's when we entered into a discussion with the Working Committee and the Auroville Council to try and get a RAD process going. At that moment there were some complications with the process not being in place, so we settled for a GM, and we had the GM. And I think a lot of you here were there, so I don't have to go through that. Next. What was offered in the environmental impact assessment was an alternate route. We've got to remember this was only, the pressure was to get this electricity line linked. We fully understood that, we were fully for that. So we offered a quick solution to do that through the existing road system, and then we had time to develop what we would see together as the Crown through the Bliss and YC area. So it was just, if you remember what I said, purely we were not talking about Crown roads. At that point, the pressure was for the HD cable. Next. Then things started to happen quite fast. In July 29, I think, or the 30th, I can't quite remember the date, but basically I was at home, I got a phone call as a steward, as a concerned person of the Crown. All the stewards got called to a meeting at, I think it was at the SARE office. There was not just the Bliss area. There was the Bliss, there was Darkali stewards there was stewards of Centrefield houses. And we had a very, very tough meeting. It was very, very difficult. It was very clear that there was a huge push to push a crown through these areas at a fast and accelerated pace. I think me personally expressed that I was very uncomfortable with this as an individual. This is a community process. I haven't got the ability to discuss one-to-one as a steward. This is a community decision when something so vast is happening. A day or two after that, there was the Crown Road meeting, and then again, the period between August and September, there was a whole series of meetings. But again, it never happened on a community level. If you look out there's no meetings of any minutes of any meetings. There's been nothing put out, nothing shared. It all happened individual negotiations with the TDC, sometimes with the Secretary of the Foundation, and the individual stewards. There was one collective meeting at the youth centre, which was to share the survey results, and then people were starting to do their own individual things because the stewards, especially of the houses, they were under extreme pressure, they had to get things done. So as the YC and the Bliss, we understood things were changing, things were happening, and we had to try and work with this. I mean, it was very intense. So that's when we started to work on alternative solutions beyond what we'd already offered. Paul Blanchefleur from the Botanical Garden got involved, and the Botanical Garden team with the youth centre, the Bliss stewards started working. Certain members of the TDC got involved in that process, and they started to get drawings together and get an alternative solution. On the 25th, that alternative solution, 25th of October, that alternative solution was presented to the planning group, and it was put out on the Euronet forum, got a lot of support, and that's probably, it was presented, and then the planning bodies said they would get back to the stewards and back to Paul, but nothing ever happened until the JCBs were called. Next. Just so you know, we weren't just playing with paper and finding alternatives to block or anything. No, we were really working on a serious proposal. The first thing to do was to survey all the area, buildings and trees, with the TDC surveyors and also the Botanical Garden surveyors of that 30-metre ROW. Next. Parallel to that, an area was cleared to try and understand the area a little bit so that we could get a flow through the area. Next. And finally, a proposal came. It fitted there was a 3-metre infrastructure corridor, there was a 4.5-metre stroke 3-metre, depending on going around the trees. There was a youth centre pavilion in the brown, in that side. And basically it seemed to tick all the boxes. The TDC members that were involved with Paul thought it was good. And everyone seemed to think, well, finally we found a solution. We moved from putting the line from the outside road all the way in, within that circle. And suddenly the JCBs turned up, and so that's the process. It was suddenly worked on, a lot of effort, a lot of energy, but not even any real discussion happened. Next. Darkali is a slightly different situation, because 25 years ago the Darkali team actually decided... I've got to go far. Okay. Darkali team, already 25 years ago, marked the crown. They kept a 5-metre wide strip, which was then indicated to them would be what they needed to do. And they marked that, and they didn't develop that land. They developed the land adjacent to it, or whatever, and in their area, in the way that they normally would, tree planting and soil and water conservation. What became apparent in the last few years was that alignment wasn't anymore appropriate, and that the line had been pulled in. So their process, the Crown Walk again, then the surveys of the area. The TDC started to offer solutions, and Darkali came up with proposals. The Darkali team came up with a good proposal that fitted in that area that was originally marked, and offered that to the TDC for discussion. And again, on the 21st of the 10th in October, there was a meeting with the foundation members, the secretary, and Srinivas Murthy, Ambu and Toby. and they were explained that this alternative proposal wasn't appropriate and that they were going to have to collaborate with the 16.7 metre clearing. Just so you can see that, next, sorry. Just so you can see, okay, Lee, I've said that. Basically, the proposal ticked all the boxes. Again, it was within the 30 metre parameter. It required hardly any destruction compared to the heavy destruction that was going to be caused by the TDC proposal. And the route didn't impact the water conservation work. Next. This is the map of the area, just so you can see. There was a lot of work done to move around the catchment areas to fit it within the 30 metre right of way. Next. And just to show you visually, for those who haven't had the chance to go to Darkali, the two on the left-hand corner, the two tapes there, the road goes across that water catchment. It goes through areas of massive trees that have been really looked after and cared for. As you can see in the bottom corner, the mark on the left is the proposal from the Darkali team, which is already cleared, and on the right, a denser area. Next. Another catchment, the road goes over. On the top left is where the Darkali proposal is, and on the left of that is where the TDC, and there's one tree, the Ficus benegalensis, that's going to be lost. All that to say, a lot of process, a lot of work, and zero movement from the TDC. Thank you.
Next slide, please. Hello everyone, my name is Lakshmi. I am going to recount to you the events from the 4th of December, Saturday. These were difficult experiences for some of us, a lot of us. So I'm sorry if it brings up difficult memories. But there are people in our community who need to hear this. So I'll quickly recount the events from the 4th of December. Next slide. So the morning of the Saturday, where the JCB first came to Bliss. That morning, JCBs arrived with TDC members and the community members who were around, who heard cries and messages from people who were at YC at that time, came there and were able to stop the JCBs and the cutting down of trees. Police were called, and in the end, everyone left, saying that this is a community issue and we need to sort it out internally. From there, the people who had gathered walked or on their bikes moved to Sauchu, where we had a community gathering. Next slide. So it was quite a big gathering, and in that gathering, it was the majority came up with the decision that the community should make these decisions, that the residents' assembly should be called forth and moved to make decisions that the community wants to look at. So during that meeting, 4 RADs were called verbally and then later signed in papers. 2 were connected. One was to stay all development on the Crown. The second was RAD on the Crown. These were connected. The third was no confidence in the working committee. And the fourth was no confidence in the TDC. I personally collected the signatures, and there were more than 60 at that time. And I had gone to the RAS to see if I could submit it, and I was suggested that maybe go back to the petitioners with a clear statement and get clear signatures from them. And then, that night, after this community meeting and feeling that we were safe in this community, that night, next slide. In the dead of the night, at 1 p.m., 1 a.m., I'm shaking as I'm saying this because I was there. At 1 a.m., to a place where young people live, JCBs came with police force and started clearing trees. there were cries, there were audio messages that were sent out. When we as adults tried to go and help them, there were barricades placed, stopping us from entering YC on all the main access roads. So the adults who wanted to go and help the young people who were living in YC had to go through the forest paths to reach there and stop and ask what is happening. When the young people tried to stop the JCBs and ask questions, they were detained. They were put in police cars. Their phones were taken. A couple of the working committee members were able to reach there and bring a stop to what was happening. Once there was some calm and peace, the young people were released from the police vehicles and the JCBs left. By around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, things were back to some sort of a calm. Next slide, please. So, the following day, Sunday, in the afternoon at 3 p.m., a few of us gathered in Kalabumi. I can see a lot of faces here who were there also. There were more than 500 people there. People came because they heard what had happened, and it was unbelievable. Can this happen to our community? When I am here, can this happen? But it did. And in that meeting, we listened to both the adults who were there and the young people who were manhandled. We listened. And we unanimously asked for an RAD to stop all development on the Crown until further notice from the RA. We got more than 500 signatures. And this is the reason why we are here. We also signed a statement that said that we do not stand for violence in this community. We are against violence in this community. Next slide, please. So, Monday night, after the meeting on Sunday, Monday night, the 24 hours that passed, we did not know what is going to happen next. We were not told, we were not communicated to other JCBs coming. Every time we heard the voice of a JCB, there was thunder in our chest because we did not know what was going to happen. And then, Monday, a proposal was put forth to the youth center and the youth network that if, under a lot of time pressure, that if they would dismantle the buildings themselves, if they would make a compromise, then perhaps they could have the same spot as the YC is now, moving a bit backwards into the Bliss Forest. An emergency meeting was called at YC, which also perhaps maybe 100 people attended. And it was a long meeting that went into maybe midnight that night. And there was an agreement that, yes, the youth would make a compromise if NOCs would be given to the new buildings that were to be built behind the buildings right now in YC. This communication was written down and sent to the TDC. And then the youth, so they were given a time pressure, that if they make this decision, 7 o'clock next morning, the JCBs are coming. That was the threat that was given. And so they made that decision at 1 o'clock, maybe midnight to 1 o'clock. They wrote that email, they sent that request for an NOC, and they were waiting. So the next couple of days they were waiting, and they were trying to see, okay, is this done? Will the JCBs come now? Do we have to dismantle? We have not got the NOC, so how can we trust this? As that was going on, 2 days passed, and on Thursday morning, can you play that, please?
What's your name?
A group of unidentified men came into the youth center They were aggressive. Some of them were, not all of them. There was a shuffle, not one, many instances of shuffle, because we have not seen this before. We don't know how to react to this. People coming in like this to enforce something that the community wants done. So people were coming in the way and moving out and crying and staying in silence and watching buildings torn down. And we did that. We did that together. We held hands and we cried and we watched in silence, bearing witness to what had happened. So that day, while that was going on, there was a meeting held. Residents shocked, unable to respond, and knowing that they need to do something, walked to the town hall and asked the working committee, what is happening with the emergency RAD? We need an emergency RAD to make a decision as a community. Give us an answer. It was demanded. They said they would give an answer by 1 p.m. that day, and it became back negative, that they could not make a majority vote for an RAD, emergency RAD process. So we began a normal RAD process, of which today's meeting is the first one. So, Thursday morning, the video that you saw.
You are brothers, please don't fight us.
The video that you saw was in YC. And after lunch, the same people with the same JCBs moved to Darkali. They were stopped on the road just in front of Darkali by community members in peaceful protest. They were chanting Om Bhagavate Namah. And they sat in front of the JCBs. And the JCBs stayed. The JCBs stayed for hours. And the people stayed for hours, chanting until their throats were dry. Into the night, people stayed, standing guard. Some people slept that night in front of Darkali. The stewards of Darkali Forest were called by Madam Secretary, and they promised that they would not obstruct if the JCBs were to move and cut down the trees that they have been looking after. And they were told that the next day morning, at 6 a.m., that the JCBs would start the work. People were there next day morning in silent protest. The stewards of Darkali Forest at that time had communicated this to everyone, that they would not want to obstruct. But people were still standing in silent witness and showing their protest. Next slide, please. This is just to show where the Darkali proposed Crown Road would go and where the TDC was clearing. It was right next to each other. Here, Natasha will take us through how
in this stretch,
close
when you hardly see any tree, this is the proposed route, which still follows the perfect circle. And here, where there's a dense forest, is what is being cleared for the road. So we could actually have a win-win where you have road and forest. But instead, we cut down our forest and leave the cleared part vacant.
Next slide, please. So around 11 o'clock that morning, few of our community members decided to stop the JCBs again out of their own responsibility. And they, in front of that TDF cluster, they sat there so the JCB could not continue the work. And next slide. So around 2 p.m. that day was when the stay order from the court arrived. And when we showed the stay order to the JCB drivers and explained to them and the TDC members who were there that this is a stay order from the court, they left. These events continue. The court hearings are going on. I would like to stop here. Yeah, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kripa. So I'm actually going to have to read through this paper I wrote because I am asked to stay within 2 minutes. And if I take the time to speak and elaborate the points, I'm obviously going to be more than 2 minutes. So I will just start by saying that we, Aurovillians here, want to very clearly state that there is no questioning about the galaxy model. The galaxy is the model that was given by the mother as a vision for the city that was to become Auroville. There is no questioning about that. There is no questioning about Auroville becoming a city. A city at the service of the truth. A city that will host human unity. A tool to develop our consciousness. And there is no questioning about the value of the master plan. Now, there is a questioning on the how, on the methods chosen to go ahead with the marking and the clearing of the Crown Road. There was no work order, there's no detailed development plan, there's no communication and dialogue. Instead, there was heavy machinery, police, paid hand force, blocking of community expression and internal process, and blocking of the voice of the Residents' Assembly. We would like to acknowledge that the recent events have been a huge wake-up call and an impulse to move forward. While we entirely disagree on the method used, we are together today to look on how to move and keep developing Auroville according to Mother's plan. Understanding that Auroville is not just another city to be built with buildings and machines, but Auroville is to be the cradle for a new consciousness, a new way of doing things. We are here for integral yoga. Let's build the city in an integral way. And we need time for this. And this is why, on the afternoon of the 5th of December, not any date, 2020, after the night when bulldozers came in at 1 a.m. to cut their way through, that same afternoon, many people got together and requested for a residents' assembly. It's for us to meet and talk and see how we move forward with this, not this way. The way we want it to be is that it's a movement from within, not from within. And from within, the movement will have an external manifestation, not an top to bottom imposition. That is not the language that can be spoken in this community. That's so I will just the movement, and this was written in the statement of the members of the International Advisory Council. In Mother's own saying, the manner in which Auroville is built is as important, possibly more than the outcome. It's not when Auroville has been completed. It's the nation's collaboration in creating something that matters. But creating something founded on the truth instead of a rivalry and falsehoods creation. Mother India has recognized the greatness of this project and has welcomed its manifestation on its land here in Tamil Nadu. We have a constitution described in the Auroville Foundation Act, an act of parliament passed in 1988. We feel deep gratitude to be allowed to experiment on this land. And there is no doubt on that. What we are requesting at this point is that the ground realities are taken into account while moving forward. That there is a dialogue and trust. We're much more powerful in our capacity to manifest if we're together, and if we're fueled by dialogue and trust. Once this part is done, then the different professionals and actors, workers can move ahead in the building of the city. We need to see what is bridging the concept of the galaxy plan and the physical manifestation, and agree on a detailed development plan before we start bulldozing. We need to be informed and consulted on decisions concerning land use, mobility plan, construction methods, acquiring of the missing land, taking into consideration the water bodies and the natural geological reality of our plateau and its bioregion. In short, I'm finishing. We believe it's high time for the community to take a break and work on this development plan within a reasonable time frame. We see the Crown as an opportunity to create unity. If people come together to discuss and agree how best it can be built, but not when it is unilaterally imposed. Also, we believe this would be the best way to bring back some rational and some peace in the present debate, and a way to find a third position where we could work to build the unity and brotherhood we all aspire to live. We need to remember we're in Auroville for unity and diversity, for human unity, peace and harmony, for a society that supports and fosters growth of consciousness for all.
Thank you.
Okay, so having heard that, we are going to hear now from the no perspective. So TDC, I've heard that also TDC came up with, they want to present, yeah? Can you please? Oh no, if it's to say that, I'll say it. Okay, so shall we start with that, or Selvaraj, you want, because there will be, I'm not sure there will be actually a sharing of the room, we'll see. No, not now, for sure. Now it's the presentation on the no perspective. Yeah, that's okay, Selvaraj? We'll see. We had a shared space.
Part of the petition has been shared.
We have a, yes, we will have a short time. If
Good evening, I'm Vidya from ATDC. We are not going to go into this presentation in detail because what is there is something which we have all grown up with. I'm quite new to this, so I don't want to again say something which you all know, which I have all lived through. So we'll keep it there. I'll straight away address some of the points which you raised, which the previous presenters raised. One is, how are we going to do this? Is Omar or David in the hall? Yes. Yeah. You can ask him how much we have, especially Srivatsan from ATDC and Madam Secretary have been collaborating with him and Mr. David on reaching out to the community, getting their inputs to work together, especially on the ground. This has been going on for 2 months since. I don't know how much has this information been shared out. TDC is just playing an intermediary role. I mean, it's just we hold the platform, that's all. We only give the bare minimum brief, and the entire design process, how we want the crown to be, has been envisaged by this group of architects. They are reaching out to the Auroville architects and through those architects to the community. This is one thing. Second thing, we are almost every day in touch with, when I say we, it's TDC and also the foundation office, we are in touch with Doshi's office. They are going to do the detailed development plan and we are giving all possible support for them, to them to do this. This is second thing. Third, the master plan itself, since this is a special project, this master plan is also very special. It is just not the master plan of any other town or city that people newly built. This master plan also has, to some extent, a detailed development plan. It has a 5 years plan in it. It has gone to the extent of identifying the projects in the next 5 years, which never happened, unfortunately, and also the budget for those projects in those years. So it has a development plan in it, embedded. Another point is to do, especially we have a template already, we have the concept of a galaxy and all these roads are going to be a footprint for it. To do that, we don't need a master plan, we don't need a detailed development plan. We need, please let me finish. We need a detailed development plan to, you can ask your own favorite architects. We need a detailed development plan to envisage the buildings, the infrastructure, the development that is going to come along these roads. For that definitely we need the DDP. We also need the DDP that for the minor roads that would connect all these development. We cannot do all those things, we cannot go down to that extent without a DDP. But for these main roads, the inner ring road, that is the crown, the radials and the outer ring road, master plan is more than sufficient. This is not that we say any architect, any town planner would agree to this. This is not the special stand of this TDC or any TDC here. And another point is, last point, to emphasize what Kripa said. We did not start from a clean slate. We were not handed a clean slate, given a barren land to start the way we wanted. The mother wanted how it has to be, what has to be there, where it has to be. She was quite meticulous about it. We can all find quotes. This group can find a quote that will suit us and you can find another quote that will suit you. We can go on like this. But she wanted the city. Nobody can debate that. She also was very specific about how she wanted it. So it has to come with from the space of acceptance and surrender, not about intellectual debate. No. Thank you very much.
1 second. May I have your attention, please? Excuse me? Just one piece of information that the RS would like to share with you for the sake of transparency.
Yeah, we also received an email in regarding to the petition that has come to the RAS and the RA meeting that we had here. We also received more than 100 people signing on a petition or whatever we may want to call it, informing the RAS that they're not up for this RAD and they want the crown development to also happen, and they do not support this RAD, and the crown development and the city building should happen as well. So the RAS has received this petition, and we have requested these petitioners or their representatives to come and attend this meeting to share their point of view, and I believe some of you over here will take care of that. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to speak in Tamil because I do see there are a lot of bio-origin Tamil Aurovillians. Sorry for not speaking English because I need to also tell them what is really happening, and I can definitely transfer in English also what I'm talking about. Yeah? There are two things. One is that when we are talking about the master plan, it's not new to anybody. We all knew that it has been approved in 2001, which has been did and passed in RAD in 1999. And it took almost 10 years to get gazetted in 2011. And after that, in 2011, imagine, now we are talking about another 10 years. There are important things which we need to understand in the master plan. There are key elements, which means that we are talking about Mathur Mandir area and Crown and line of force and outer ring road. This is the key element of the master plan. There is no negotiation for such an implementation. If there is, the community process where we needed is to give your suggestion for the DDP. You can give your suggestion on detailed development plan, how it should be and what is the community need. But for the key element, it is not, there is no negotiation at all. Let's say for like Mathur Mandir. நான் உங்ககிட்ட என்ன சொல்லணும் தமிழில், அப்போ நான் சொன்னதான் ஆல்மோஸ்ட் இங்கே பார்த்தீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு எல்லாரும் புரியும். 2001 2011 கெசட் ஆகுது. இந்தியன் பார்லிமெண்ட்டில் HRD மினிஸ்ட்ரி கீழே அது அப்ரூவ் ஆகுது. அப்ரூவ் ஆகி இன்னைக்கு 2021 நம்ம இதே கவர்மெண்ட்டுக்கிட்ட கொஸ்டின் பண்ணுறது இல்லாத அப்பீல் பண்ணுறோம். என்னென்னு அப்பீல் பண்ணுறோம், எங்களுக்கு இந்த மாஸ்டர் பிளானில் இந்த ரோடு இப்படி வேணாம், இந்த மரத்தை வெட்டுறாங்க அப்படி இப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு. மரத்தை யார் வச்சுது, எதுக்காக வச்சிங்க, எதுக்கு இந்த லேண்டு யார் கொடுத்தாங்க, இங்கே இருக்கிற லோக்கல் தமிழ் மக்கள். அந்த தமிழ் மக்கள் எதுக்காக கொடுக்குறாங்க, அன்னையோட கனவு நகரம் உருவாகணும்னு சொல்லிட்டு. இப்போ நம்ம என்ன பண்ணுறோம், மரத்தை வளர்த்துட்டு அந்த இடத்துல அந்த ரோடு வரக்கூடாதுன்னு சொல்கிறோம். ஓகே, I'm talking about the second one. I'm not prepared to yeah. I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. And I'm coming to that. Please wait. Please wait. I'm coming to that. Please wait. Please wait. I said I will translate it in English also. I said okay. Please wait. Yes. Yeah. And the second one is that. Excuse me. Hello. 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 Can you please? Can you please? The second one, when Glenn was presenting, it was not definitely true at all. There was a 52 meeting took place from the day we started the crown walk. 52 meetings with the TDC and with the concerned people, with Darkali, with the YC, with the Auroville. Please, please. Okay, and we had individual meeting, almost 6-7 meetings with the concerned people, Darkali, YC and Auroville. Please, and they gave alternate route. Definitely yes, we told them, we'll take back to our table, we will discuss it because we need to know the ground reality. Of course, we have done the site survey. Imagine, if I see the slide of Darkali, I'm sure it is 60 plus acres. And a family holding this for more than 35 years. Okay. It is in the city area. In the city area. And there is a place, there is a canyon. There is a canyon which is crossing the community where they are depthening it for 3.5 meter depthening. And instead of making water catchment, you can continue making it in the canyon area. But it is, I would say that it is my perception, it is made purposefully where the crown road is going to be. Definitely another one. I'm so sorry, please. There is another one. Again, along the where the road is going to move, there are 6 banyan trees which has been planted. It is not by nature. What are you talking about nature here? That's the one. When I'm talking about youth center and please. I'm sorry. Please, when you're talking about youth center, we had a good interaction and we did a survey. Of course, they asked me to give back the survey to them to have an update. When I gave... Hello? Sorry?
You have to repeat all the things again.
So actually in the youth center we had another meeting. Several meetings took place where Secretary Ma'am also joined and you all joined already. The thing is, what we asked them to come up with the plan, definitely the alternate plan, based on what is the ground reality. Of course, they also given a alternate plan where poll has made. The poll has made, definitely we also told that we will come back. When we gone through this, again we did a survey, almost 317 trees has been added by poll, more than, top of my survey. When I gone through this, it is the dia of 2 centimeter, 5 centimeter, less than 10 centimeter. But in the drawing you can see it is completely dense, it look like, because this is a ground reality. And of course, we said that we will give a alternate place. We asked them to come with the vision of their project because they want to do vocational training center there. Of course, we asked them as in a community process. We are very famous on community process. We asked them, can you please give your vision? What is the purpose of the youth center? Please give us. And also, last week we worked out fully to give the new location also. This happened. And we had several meetings with Auroville area also, with Mita and Tapas. Definitely thank you for their effort that they have supported in a different way. Definitely thank you so much. And we still now we are interacting with Auroville and Centerfield area. So this is a fact. I'm sorry I'm not prepared to do many things. But definitely, you see, the thing is, we are talking about, we are very proud Auroville has to grow organically. Yes, 53 year. 53 year. And we are proud to question the people. How about the remaining land? We don't need to question, it's our response to buy. Okay, today the land has been purchased. It's not by Aurovillian. It's all by devotees. The devotees of Sri Aurobindo and Mother. Okay. So this is most important actually. Did we find any budget within ourselves to purchase the land?
Yes.
Yeah. If it is, if it is, okay. Thank you, Rakal. Thank you, Rakal. Thank you, Rakal. No, I'm not lying, but you tell me because these are the data which is more needed, and also we need to purchase more than 100 acres, more than 150 acres remaining in the city area. The thing is, why are we purchasing the land for what? To create a forest? Are we buying land to create a forest?
No, I'm sorry, we're entering into...
I have to ask you, can you please answer me?
This is...
Okay. There are things which we need to also realize. Thank you.
I have a question, please. I have a question.
Sorry, there is a map. There is a map. It's not working? Oh, sorry, it's working. I'm sorry. There is someone before you. There is someone. And...
Okay. Hello everyone. Can you hear me outside? Can you hear me outside? Yes. Okay, this is the second time in my life that I had to speak in the General Assembly. Each time my name gets mentioned, in a way that I feel not very accurate, and I had no choice but to come and correct. So, because I am Omar, and it has to be clear that there is an initiative. I think already few of you know about it. Who knows about it? Yes, okay. So there is an initiative to bridge. Because our understanding is that there is always symptoms and there is always origin of the problem. And if you think about it, you would find that we do need a planning, collaborative process that includes professionals, different people, external professionals to create a DDP. Once this is there, everything can move. So when we saw all of these symptoms and we felt that there is a possibility, we emphasize this as independent group of professionals in Auroville working independently from any institution or any group, but collaborating with everyone. So this is very clear. And I have to ask you, in the meeting with the secretary, and you were there, didn't we say we are independent or not? We are working as independent group of architects or not? Yes or no? Yes. Dr. Ravi, did we say that or not? Yes. No. I did ask Dr. Ravi, she should answer. I'm sorry. It was my mistake to ask. But I feel if I ask Dr. Ravi a question, she should answer.
Just a short answer is possible?
It has to be understood that there is a difference between collaboration and being part of a site. Because being part of a site means that we cannot bridge. Wanting to bridge meaning that we are taking a central position and we are meeting everyone. And this, we have said this and we will continue saying this, and we have met groups and we will be meeting other groups through this week. And next Monday at 4 p.m. we will come to the whole community and present the whole process and see how you feel about it. So it is not, I am not saying we are not collaborating, we are collaborating with everyone. I am only emphasizing our independence because I came to India as only a member of the Auroville Residents Assembly. This is the only position I have here. Yeah, thank you.